Welcome to Afro-Latinas United. I'm so glad you're here with me today. If you're new to the channel, this is the space where we celebrate the beauty, strength, and complexity of the Afro-Latina identity. We talk about everything from culture to identity and the unique experiences of Afro-Latinas around the world. Today, I want to dive into an interesting question. Are Afro-Latinas the ultimate exoticals? And what does that even mean for us? This is a topic that touches on how we're seen, how we see ourselves and the spaces we occupy, both online and offline. What does exotical even mean? Let's start with the basics. The term exotical. You might have seen this term floating around on YouTube, especially in certain communities where people with mixed or unique ethnic backgrounds gather. It's a term that people use to highlight their distinct cultural blend and their experiences of being perceived as different. For some, it's a term of empowerment, a way to embrace their uniqueness. For others, it's a way to create a community where they don't feel judged or misunderstood for their background. The rise of exoticals on YouTube, a new community. The exotical identity really found a home on YouTube, where people with unique cultural backgrounds could come together and share their stories. These channels often explore what it's like to be seen as different in societies that don't always know how to categorize them. For example, some creators talk about being mixed race, coming from a blend of African, Asian, and Latin roots, or having features that aren't typically seen in their communities. Yet, the exotical experience isn't purely about appearances. It's about the cultural richness that comes from belonging to more than one world, something all Afro-Latinos share. Whether someone has features that are more Afrocentric or more typical of their Latin heritage, their cultural background inherently places them in a space where they are seen as exotic, a blend of cultures that isn't easily categorized. This is a shared reality for all of us who straddle these worlds. Why I was drawn to exotical channels and where they fell short. At first, these exotical channels felt like a breath of fresh air. They shed light on what it means to have a different ethnicity or to come from a background that doesn't quite fit into the traditional categories. They highlighted the challenges and beauty of being a blend of cultures, and that spoke to me deeply. In BWE spaces, I sometimes felt that the focus was primarily on the Afro-American experience, and as someone with Latin roots, I couldn't always relate to the discussions. But even though I appreciated what these channels brought to the table, I quickly realized that they didn't fully encompass who I am. While they talked about the experience of being mixed or having a unique background, there wasn't enough emphasis on the Latin side of my identity. The Afro-Latina experience is distinct because it blends African roots with rich Latin American culture, whether that's the music, the language, or the traditions we grew up with. This blend is what makes all Afro-Latinos part of the exotical narrative, regardless of the specific traits we may have. Afro-Latinas as the ultimate exoticals? So, are we as Afro-Latinas the ultimate exoticals? In many ways, yes. This isn't just about appearance, it's about the blend of cultures we embody. Afro-Latinos represent a fusion of African, Latin American, and sometimes indigenous or European influences. This mix creates a rich tapestry of traditions, stories, and cultural expressions that make us exotical. It's this unique blend that sets us apart in many spaces. Our identity is defined by the unique intersection of African and Latin American roots. Whether we're light-skinned or dark-skinned, have Afro-textured hair or straighter hair, the blend of cultures we carry is what makes us stand out in spaces that often expect us to fit into simpler categories. Afro-Latina scholar Mayra Santos Febres once said,
Ser afro-latino no es ser mitad de nada, sino ser el todo de todo.
These words resonate with our experience. Our identity isn't about being halfway between cultures. It's a full expression of our roots, uniquely Afro-Latina. Not just African, not just Spanish or Portuguese. We are all in one culture. The duality of being exotic. It's also important to talk about the dual nature of being labeled as exotic. In a Western context, there's a sense of pride that comes from having a culture that is vibrant and rich, one that stands out. Being recognized for your unique background can feel empowering, especially in places where being different isn't always celebrated. It's a way of saying, yes, I am different, and that's something beautiful. But on the flip side, being labeled as exotic can feel like a box that people put you in. It can make you feel like you're always being seen through a lens of otherness, rather than being understood as a whole person. See, it's like people see the blend of cultures on the surface, but don't always dive deeper to understand the stories and experiences that make up that blend. Why I created this channel. That's why I felt the need to create Afro-Latinas United. With Afro-Brazilian and Surinamese roots, I've always felt that my background is rare and uniquely beautiful. I've had the privilege of living in the Netherlands and Germany, which gave me an European perspective on identity and culture, while also spending significant time in South America. Living in South America deepened my connection to Latin culture and gave me a first-hand understanding of the richness and complexity of being Afro-Latina. My mix isn't one you come across often, and that's what makes my perspective so distinct. As an attorney, I've developed a strong voice and a deep appreciation for how culture and identity influence our place in the world. Speaking 5 languages has allowed me to connect with diverse communities and bridge gaps between cultures, but I've often noticed a lack of representation for Afro-Latinas like myself. That's why I felt inspired to create this channel, to give us a space where our unique stories can be celebrated and our full identities embraced. This channel is for all Afro-Latinas, whether you're from Brazil, Mexico, the Dominican Republic, or anywhere in Latin America. It's about celebrating both our African and Latin roots without compromise. Our identity is complex, our cultures are vibrant, and our stories are worth telling. While terms like exotical might touch on certain aspects of our experiences, they don't fully capture the depth of who we are. That's why this channel exists, to define ourselves on our own terms and to create a community where we celebrate the full tapestry of our identity. So, what do you think about the term exotical? Do you feel it captures who you are, or do you think it falls short in some ways? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who might relate to this topic. Let's keep building this community together. See you next time here on Afro-Latinas United, where we celebrate ourselves as we are and create a space where our stories are heard. Stay proud of all parts of who you are.
Tchau, até a próxima vez!